Prologue. You're about to see a video in which I rant and rave about how much I hate Sepp Blatter. I wrote this video last night, I went to work, I've come home, gone upstairs, filmed the video, I've come downstairs, Emma, just see this on the news. He's resigned. He's resigned as president of FIFA. He ruined football, and now he's gonna ruin my video as well. What a fucking prick. Enjoy. I'm pissed off! This week has seen a serious scandal erupt around FIFA. For those not in the know, FIFA are the international governing body of football. They're also evil. I could go on for hours about the problems that I've got with FIFA. I could talk, for instance, about this man who has a pet parrot and a separate apartment for his cats, but somehow doesn't pay tax. Or I could talk about this man who went to jail for bribery but was discharged from jail for exhaustion before going to a party. But John Oliver's already done a lot of that, and I don't want to rip him off too much more than I already am, so I'll give you a shorthand. This is an organisation that claims to be non-profit, but somehow in 2013 took a net profit of $72 million. That's not to mention the $1.4 billion they've got on reserve. That's just there in case. They're not doing anything with it. That's just money because you never know when you're going to need a bit of spare change. What if it rains for 26 years straight? The problem is they just shrug this off and they get away with it because so many heads of footballing associations around the world rely on FIFA in order to keep their football associations afloat. And Sepp Blatter, the president of FIFA, gives them money in return for unquestioned devotion. And that's made him think of himself as unassailable, as the sole do-gooder in the world of football. When a dozen or so officials were arrested on corruption charges, he actively hid from the blame. He said, and quote, "You can't just ask people to behave ethically." The fuck? He literally thinks that last week's FBI raids were a coordinated effort by the UK and US media to do him PR damage. It couldn't be anything to do with the fraud and corruption that is rife and rampant throughout your organisation. Sepp Blatter is a prick. He's a racist, sexist, homophobic, delusional prick. You want to know why? Let's take a trip down memory lane. Sepp Blatter's called himself the godfather of women's football, a man who has almost single-handedly changed the women's game for the better. A strong claim to make, especially when you consider one of his proposals for improving the game was that the women should wear tighter shorts for a more feminine aesthetic. Why? Because in his words, female players are pretty. Right, in 2022 the World Cup is being held in Qatar. Let's not go there. Literally, but also figuratively. Suffice to say, holding this tournament in a country with such lax human rights is despicable. For one thing, homosexual activity is still illegal in Qatar. What was Sepp Blatter's answer to questions about how that would affect gay fans who wanted to attend the tournament? I'd say they should refrain from any sexual activities, because gay people openly expressing affection is the real problem here. Obviously. And what about the still very real and often vicious presence of racism in modern football? This is a serious worldwide problem. It's one that affects players on the pitch and fans in the stands and subjects them to such disgraceful abuse. And the president of FIFA, the man who is in charge of the organisation intending to make this game as fair and righteous as possible, how does he view this particular issue? There is no racism in football. Anyone affected should just say, "This is a game," and shake hands. Which I just can't even. I could go on. And I'm not just saying that for effect. There is 17 years worth of this tripe. He once compared himself to a mountain goat, for Christ's sake. And those quotes don't even go into the long-running and blatant funneling of money into the bank accounts of already rich men in a way that doesn't in any way benefit the game that this organisation is supposed to represent. When he won re-election, he literally stood on stage and said, "Nobody's perfect." No, Sepp, nobody's perfect. But most people aren't also morally bankrupt. In any other company, in any other field, this man would be out of a job quicker than a paedophile at a preschool. John Oliver, in his fantastic Last Week Tonight monologue, said that he thinks FIFA will be saved if Sepp Blatter is ousted. And I can't help but disagree with him. Call me apocalyptic, but I think the corruption is so deep within FIFA these days that it can't possibly recover. But I want there to be hope, because I love football, and because I'm a romantic, and I want to believe in the good that the game can do, and I want to believe that there's justice. And I have to say, getting rid of Sepp Blatter will give me that little flicker of hope. But until that day comes, I'll just keep watching the best 5 seconds of footage on the entirety of YouTube over and over again. Thank you, John Oliver, for bringing this footage to my attention. This is Sepp Blatter falling off stage at a 90s FIFA conference. There he is, shaking some hands. He leans over a little bit too far, and there he goes. What a twat.